KCRA 3 News at 5:30 starts right now.
Roads and homes. At 5:30 this morning, our focus is on the Applegate fire burning just to the south of Interstate 80 in Placer County. You're looking at current traffic conditions on I-80 in that area. Jacqueline Dunn says one lane of eastbound 80 is still shut down as a fast-moving fire threatens dozens of homes right now. Well, good morning to you. I'm Teo Torres.
I'm Lisa Gonzalez in for Deirdre Fitzpatrick this morning. Right now, the fire is burning to the south of I-80 between Applegate and Weimar, and that is where KCRA 3's Brian Hickey is right now tracking overnight developments. Brian.
Hey, good morning to you guys, and this is the area where the highway is blocked down to one lane here, just around the Applegate area, and you can see not a lot of traffic in the area, so it's not causing any kind of a backup, but you can see for obvious reasons why the road's closed is they've got a number of fire trucks that are parked right along the highway here, and you can see there are some markers which generally indicate where they might have some evidence where they believe this fire could have started. We're told there are 5 different start zones along Interstate 80 on the eastbound side of the freeway that ultimately led to this fire spreading in a southerly direction off of the highway and out towards the North Fork of the American River, where one officer told us this morning they believe the fire did make it down into the River Canyon as of last night. This morning, as we drove around down in there, it's just a lot of smoldering embers at this point, no real active flames, just a lot of small stuff out there, but over a wide expanse of area. And so crews right now just monitoring those hot spots, trying to build some containment line under the nice cool morning. In the meantime, many of the evacuees who rushed out of there in the advance of this fast-moving fire, wondering if their homes made it.
They're great people. They're brave. I don't know, they're special. They are special.
Packed up the baby's birth certificate, my birth certificate, just closed for the night, you know, just praying that everything will be okay.
And at this point, they do have a number of firefighters down in the canyon there. We drove deep down into the canyon and overnight saw a bunch of fire trucks down there. A lot of crews out and about in that area, again, monitoring this fire that's spreading what appears to be a pretty narrow swath, but deep down into the canyon. And we'll get a better look at that by daylight. But this morning, a lot of firefighters out there. They have set up a command post now at the Gold County Fairgrounds. There's 3 evacuation centers set up for those who had to flee this fire. So I'll get more information on that for you in just a little bit. But again, you can see the traffic here behind us along I-80 now down to one lane. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Brian Hickey, thank you for the live report. Now, our best position to show you where the flames were yesterday came from Live Copter 3. So take a look. You can see some of the homes burning in that fire, which moved away from I-80 as it continued to burn. You can see the shell of the home there. Larger air tankers from the Forest Service were called in, laying down thousands of gallons of fire retardant. We also saw helicopters dipping into the American River. The eastbound lanes were closed for hours through that area.
Let's get a check on where that smoke is heading, kind of in Folsom area yesterday. And my son asked if there was a storm on the way. I said, no, that is a big cloud of smoke, David.
Yeah, that's exactly right, guys. We were looking at the wind direction shifting to more of an easterly wind during the overnight hours, and that blew some smoke down into the valley. But now we're looking at a shift in the wind directions that we kind of associate with the time of day. So as we get into the afternoon, we look at more of a westerly wind, and then during the overnights, it shifts to an east wind. So starting Futurecast around 10 o'clock, you can see south wind at 4 miles an hour in Auburn. Very light winds today, including during the afternoon. We're going to see some westerly winds anywhere from 5 to 10 miles an hour. Now, as we head into the overnight hours, again, we'll start to see some downsloping winds. So if there's still a good amount of smoke, some of this will probably start to work its way into the valley. But by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, again, it shifts to the west and the southwest, which will blow the smoke away. Here's what it currently looks like with the particulate matter in the atmosphere. So that's usually made up of smoke. You can see the yellow colors around Yuba City. That's where some of the smoke may have blown off during the overnight hours. But for the most part, air quality isn't too bad. I wouldn't be surprised if this changes, though, a little bit later on in the day. So that's a look at your smoke and wind forecast. Let's send over to Dirk for the rest of the day.
Yeah, we've got conditions this morning off to a cool start. That's nice. 58 degrees in Sacramento, or 53 degrees in Marysville, 59 in Stockton, as well as Fairfield, and 62 in Modesto. Lake Tahoe, 33 in Truckee, sitting at 30 degrees this morning. Calm conditions in Truckee currently. Elsewhere from Marysville through Stockton, even on to Modesto, very light winds here in the valley. But what's important is the southwest wind at 18 currently in Fairfield. That's a sign for some cooler weather coming our way. We're still going to have plenty of sunshine. Not much cloud cover expected unless you're going to be heading to the coast where we have the marine layer in place. So forecast high temperatures for this afternoon. We're looking at upper 80s, close to 90 degrees, but most locations should stay below 90 today, as opposed to what we have been seeing lately, all those 90s we've had. Fairfield, 84 degrees, quite a cool down there. Auburn, 82 and 71 degrees at Lake Tahoe. As we take a look at the bigger picture here, as we make our way into the weekend, temperatures will warm up again, but some more significant cooling arrives by Tuesday. There's your weather. Here's traffic now with Jacqueline.
Good morning. We'll begin this time around. Take a look at your ride heading through Modesto. No major problems or slowdowns to tell you about. Of course, some ongoing road work along 219, but 99 in really good shape at this time. We'll take a quick check of your ride heading through Elk Grove. This is I-5 near Laguna Boulevard, and you can see speeds are moving right at the limit there. No major delays getting into Sacramento, both on I-5 or 99 out of Elk Grove. Westbound 50 and southbound 5 look great. They remain in the green. Just a reminder, we are tracking some just minor slowdowns for folks making their way in the eastbound direction along Interstate 80, all due to the Applegate fire. Guys, back over to you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Turning now to the Ebola outbreak now. Today, 100 Marines arrive in Liberia to help with that deadly disease. This comes one day after the first patient diagnosed in the U.S. has died.
Aixa Diaz is live in our Washington bureau. So, Aixa, a sheriff's deputy in Dallas is now under observation.
Lisa Teo, that deputy is at the hospital out of an abundance of caution, health officials say. Meanwhile, Marines will be arriving in Liberia today to help people on the ground there in Liberia deal with this outbreak.
What's true is we have unique capabilities that nobody else has.
100 U.S. Marines with special aircraft will help transport supplies and personnel in Liberia until Army units arrive later this month for a long-term mission.
One of the challenges that we're having is some of the sites at which we are trying to set up these emergency treatment units are in pretty remote locations where there are not only no roads, but there's no other way to get to them.
Ebola has hit Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea the hardest. The Centers for Disease Control says travelers from those countries will be screened for fevers and given questionnaires when arriving at JFK in New York, O'Hare in Chicago, Dulles in Washington, D.C., Newark, New Jersey, and Atlanta.
These 5 airports represent about 94, nearly 95% of all of the 150 travelers per day who arrive from these 3 countries.
A sheriff's deputy in Dallas is now in the hospital after going inside the apartment where Thomas Duncan was staying and having contact with his family. Officials say the deputy was showing signs and symptoms of Ebola. Last night, a church in Dallas held a vigil for Duncan, who died nearly 3 weeks after arriving in the U.S. from Liberia. And Secretary of State John Kerry wants other nations to do more in this fight against Ebola. He says the international effort is about $300 million short of what it needs to be.
So, Aixa, why are healthcare workers in Liberia threatening to go on strike right now?
Well, Lisa, they say they need more help and money. They're getting paid about $500 a month. Even highly trained staff is getting paid that amount. So they say they need more money. They also need more gear to protect themselves while they're treating these very sick patients. And they say if they don't get what they need, they could go on strike by the end of this week.
All right, Aixa Diaz live in Washington. Thank you so much. We'll check back. In the meantime, to Southern California now. An Inglewood hospital is treating a patient who's just arrived to L.A. from Liberia. A patient was admitted yesterday. Doctors say his is not showing Ebola-like symptoms. They're just being cautious at this point and completely isolating that patient.
Turning now to our Commitment 2014 coverage, it was a heated debate last night in Sacramento as 2 opponents running to represent California's 7th district in Congress squared off in their first debate of the election season. And now the question about the debate is who won?
I'm Afe Fasai, joining us now with a look at one of the issues as well that have the congressman and Ami Bera and former Congressman Doug Osee kind of at odds.
Yeah, at odds and very heated last night, guys. It was definitely a fiery war of words last night between Congressman Ami Bera and his Republican challenger Doug Osee. Now, this race for the 7th Congressional District is being watched across the country with eyes focused on the area east of Sacramento, where voters get the ultimate decision. Doug Osee's supporters came out in full force outside the debate. Inside, the Republican challenger and former congressman threw the first blows, blasting Democrat Ami Bera for his support of Obamacare. Osee accused Bera of not giving assistance to small businesses, but Bera countered that, saying he's been a firm advocate for business growth. After the debate, we asked both candidates who won the face-off.
Oh, I won tonight's debate. All you heard from Congressman Bera is more Washington, D.C. political doublespeak.
Well, tonight you saw two different visions of leadership, two visions of how we move forward as a nation. Again, this is about, making promises and protecting the middle class. Promise to protect against those that want to privatize Social Security and Medicare. Return my pension. Kept that promise.
Now, this was the first and only debate in this highly competitive race. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thanks so much, May.
Well, Secretary of State John Kerry is talking climate change today. Secretary Kerry is in Boston for a tour of the Wind Technology Testing Center, which is operated by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Joining him will be British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond. While there, Kerry will deliver remarks on the global threat of climate change. Also today, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson will speak about border security, specifically border security in the 21st century. The topic is related to immigration reform, which is still a hot-button issue in Washington. Earlier this year, undocumented minors were entering the country in record numbers.
Well, still ahead, after a string of some 90s, you think it is, we're all ready for a little cool down, Dirk?
Yeah, it looks like we might break that trend. It's still going to be very warm, though, today and into tomorrow and even into your weekend, but there is some cooler weather arriving, some more significant cooling coming up in the forecast.